Top five.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome to the Countdown. We got a great episode today. We're ranking the top 5 quarterbacks available this offseason.
Man, y'all know who it is. It's the guys. We're back with another episode. We're dropping every single week, so make sure you smash that like button.
Smash it.
Damn sure hit that subscribe button.
Got to.
Because like I said, we'll be back next week.
No doubt. And so when it comes to this list, we're talking about 2023 only. This isn't about the future. This isn't about how many draft picks it would take to get them. It's about what players would have the largest impact this year. And so keep in mind, this video is sponsored by Fan Gear Nation. You can get great jerseys at a great price and look great while doing it. So with that being said, we're going to get into the countdown. We're starting out with number 5, Derek Carr. This guy was a franchise quarterback for the Raiders for a long time, but when it came to 2022, they kicked him aside, they benched him, and he's pretty much the only guy on this list who's guaranteed to change teams this offseason.
No question.
And he's looking for somewhere else to go, even though he did set the franchise record in passing yards. He did set the franchise record in touchdowns, completions, all these different kind of records that he owns, but it doesn't matter because the NFL is a what have you done for me lately kind of business. And he hasn't done much. So he's going to be on his way out, but he could bring a lot to a new team, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders just got to Vegas, and we thought Derek Carr was going to be with the Raiders maybe to at least the end of his career. And, 2 years into the new season or 2 years into the new franchise location, Derek Carr's out of there. They didn't waste any time. They benched him at the end of the year, and they basically told him, yo, hit the road. You're going to have to go find somewhere else to play quarterback. And like you said, Rob, I mean, Derek Carr has all these franchise records. I remember Derek Carr having that great season, maybe almost the MVP caliber season, or putting him over that hump season when he broke his ankle. Kind of like when Carson Wentz tore his ACL when he was on that MVP run with the Eagles. And both of those quarterbacks have never been the same.
Great comparison.
Yeah, both of those quarterbacks have never been the same. You look at Derek Carr's numbers, you'll see 24 touchdowns, 11 picks, 25 touchdowns, 12 picks. And yeah, that doesn't look too bad on paper, but when you watch the Raiders play and watch the way they lose games, it's like, damn, I see why Raiders fans don't like Derek Carr. I see why Raiders organization was like, Derek Carr, we've seen enough of you. It's time to go. He had a great tenure, but every good thing comes to an end.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the way that they were losing games, when you lose that many one-score games, it typically comes down to your coach or your quarterback.
Yeah.
This one kind of was both, especially with Josh McDaniels' first year at the helm. And
can't get rid of him.
Exactly. And when you try to pick up a new system and you're dealing with all those injuries, like Darren Waller got hurt, Hunter Renfrow got hurt, the only consistent person he had was Devontae Adams, who had another all-pro caliber season. Yep. But Derek Carr he wasn't enough, especially for the Raiders, who didn't have a great defense, but he could bring a lot to a new team if he's in the right situation, maybe has a better defense, maybe still has some solid weapons, maybe has a better O-line. He can win games, and like you talked about, he's shown he can have what his ceiling is of having an MVP caliber year, having that Pro Bowl type of season. So it will be interesting to kind of see what type of team's able to acquire him, because he could be the guy to take a team to the next level.
Yeah, and the thing about this list is it's going to be established quarterbacks and rookie quarterbacks. And when you think about the established quarterbacks that are free agents this year, you think of Sam Darnold, you think of Ryan Tannehill. At the end of the day, they're not fucking with Derek Carr. I don't care what any Raiders fan says. I don't care what any simp of a fan says. Derek Carr still has the tools to be a good future NFL quarterback. Yeah, and he's not that old.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned it. We got established quarterbacks. We got free agents. We got trade acquisition candidates. We got draft picks. So moving on to number 4, we got C.J. Stroud, Brandon.
C.J. Stroud was in a great situation at Ohio State, had great receivers around him, coached by Brian Hartline. He's had the Smith and Jigbas. He's had the Garrett Wilsons. He's had the Chris Olaves. He had the Marvin Harrisons. Like, he's had great receivers. And when you watch C.J. Stroud play, or when you see C.J. Stroud, you're like, damn, he has the size. Damn, he looks like he can move. He looks like he has the full package, and he does. But unfortunately, at Ohio State, you didn't see him use his legs a lot. You didn't see him really run for first downs. You didn't see him really create plays with his legs and throw it downfield. You really saw him sit in the pocket and just dink and dime. Well, not dink and dime, but really throw dots and dimes across the whole field. But what we saw in that game against Georgia, we saw him really start to use his legs in situations where he had to. And I'm talking about against the best team in college football and the biggest moment of the season, the national championship. You see him breaking out.
College football playoff.
College football championship. Yeah, college
it
football
really
playoff.
Was a national championship.
It might as well have been the national championship. It was the best two teams in college football. But I digress. Anyways, He has the full package. He can do it all. You saw him running around, making big plays with his arms. You saw him shred one of the best college football defenses of all time. Obviously not as good as that Georgia defense the year before, but really still a great defense. And just that last game, which is the final impression of what we've seen from C.J. Stroud, he looked like a number 1 overall pick caliber quarterback and a future All-Pro. So we'll see what C.J. Stroud can bring in 2023, his rookie season.
Yeah, he looked really good in that game, and that was the biggest thing, especially when it comes to these college quarterbacks. Like, the biggest thing that scouts will want to evaluate is how are you with the talent around you, which he obviously had as good of a talent as anyone, so it's kind of hard to tell, like, was it you or was it those guys? And then also, how did you play against your biggest competition? And against his biggest competition at the time, which was Michigan, he kind of shit the bed and just didn't play a good second half whatsoever, and that was going to be his lasting impression. Of course, USC went on to lose. Ohio State snuck into the playoffs, but they didn't sneak in at all because C.J. Stroud made it clear against the best defense that he played, the best team in college football, like you said, that's going to have plenty of NFL caliber players on that team. He was balling, and he wasn't just doing it with his arm. He was doing it with his legs. He was showing the mobility, showing the escapability, and just making plays, and that's what C.J. Stroud showed he can bring to the table going forward. And in 2023, he showed some of that polish, especially down the stretch, that he can make an impact as soon as this year. And so you mentioned C.J. Stroud being the number 1 pick. I think this guy is going to have a lot to say about that. We're talking about Bryce Young at number 3, the Alabama quarterback. He's got the Heisman under his belt. He went to a national championship, had a very successful college career, and he might be one of the best quarterback prospects we've ever seen. The way that he can do it inside the pocket, outside the pocket, with his arm, with his legs. There's really nothing on the football field that this guy cannot do. I think the only kind of weakness or downside for him is just going to be his size. The durability concerns are going to be there. We saw it play out this year where he missed a few games. And when you're that size, you're moving all the time, there's definitely going to be some pause, from evaluators' perspective of like, do we really want to take the risk on this guy, give this guy millions and millions of dollars and make him our franchise quarterback? But when you turn on the film, all you got to see is a few plays and be like, this guy's special, and this guy could really not just change a franchise, but an entire city.
I mean, the film doesn't lie. We haven't seen a lot of great quarterbacks that are 6 foot and under. The ones that come to mind are the Drew Brees, Mike Vick, and Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson.
Right.
So there has been some really good ones lately, and that's part of the game evolving. There's something about most of those quarterbacks outside of Drew Brees that they all can do. They can run. They can extend plays. They can make really big plays, and they have good arm strength and good arm talent. And, Bryce Young fits all those molds, and obviously he's been at a great system under NFL coaches. His OC this past year was Bill O'Brien, so he was running the NFL. Running an NFL system in college, and now he's back in the NFL. So Bryce Young has had the tools around him, and he's always been very patient, very poised in the pocket. And the same thing goes for C.J. Stroud. These are 2 young quarterbacks that are very poised. They're never rushed. They're on some Jalen Hurts type stuff with just always feeling like they're in control and they can always make a play. There's really not enough good things that you can say about Young because despite the size, despite going to Alabama and facing tough quarterbacks year in and year out, he's came ahead of every single situation. And just when you watch him play, and even when you just see the way that he moves around, you just have no doubt that he could be a really good quarterback, not only in the future, but as soon as 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the composure. That guy's got it.
Damn right.
So moving on to number 2, we had a little debate who should be 2, who should be 1, but we're going with Aaron Rodgers at number 2.
A-Rod. The thing about A-Rod is he struggled early on this year. They had injuries to the number 1 receiver in Christian Watson this season. He's just had to gel and work with some receivers that he's not used to. They had to rely on some really young receivers, some rookies. And, if there's one thing about Aaron Rodgers, he really thrives on, continuity. And that's one of the big reasons why they went back and got Cobb this year. Right. And he actually played pretty well this year. But you saw Aaron Rodgers hit a switch towards halfway or towards the end of the year where he was really out there breaking down defenses. And Aaron Rodgers obviously has the arm strength. He has the tools. He even has the legs to evade a little bit despite his age. And just when you think about Aaron Rodgers, he's going off in 80% of the situations in the league, maybe 75, but he's like in situations where he has a good offense built around him, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and that's why he's at the top of our list.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we saw.
At the top.
Right. And I think that's kind of what we saw this year. Like, we're talking about a 4-time MVP. There's not many people up at that echelon.
Yep.
And this year, though, it wasn't the same level of play. You know, whether you want to blame the thumb, whether you want to blame the injuries for the receivers, the offensive line had to shuffle in and out. So he wasn't in a great position to succeed. And I think that's going to be a big determining factor if he goes to another team this year, because he could re-sign with the Packers, but they could be ready to move on to Jordan Love in year 3, like we saw with Rodgers back in the day. And when you talk about a team like the Jets or like the Raiders, those are teams that are built to win right now. Especially you talk about him going back to Vegas with, or pairing with Devontae Adams, who we saw the kind of success they had together. Add in Darren Waller, add in Hunter Renfrow. That team could really make some noise, probably be the best group of weapons Aaron Rodgers has ever had. And sure, he is 37, definitely the oldest guy on this list now that, you know, Tom Brady's retired. But he showed that he can still play at a high level, especially if you put him in the right situation.
Damn, this has been an up and down video for the Raiders. You know, we bashed Derek Carr, but we still have his number 5. We still think he has potential.
Right.
And, you know, that's a soft spot for Raiders right now. And then we kind of give him some uplift, you know, with Aaron Rodgers going back with Devontae Adams. So who knows what Aaron Rodgers could do this year. You know, obviously he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
No doubt, no doubt. And we are going back and forth of who should be number 1. But we do have Lamar Jackson at the top of the list. Brandon was leaning a little toward Lamar. I was leaning a little toward Aaron Rodgers because I was thinking, you know, both these guys could go to a team like the Jets who have those weapons. And I think Aaron Rodgers would probably be more likely to have success there than Lamar. But when we talked about a team like the Texans who doesn't have the weapons in place, Lamar is probably going to be the guy to succeed because we've seen how he does it with the lack of weapons there in Baltimore. And so I think it just depends on kind of what situation these guys are going to go to. But when you talk about Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers, the big thing that separates these two guys is below the waist. It's what they do with their legs on the football field. And I'm going to say it, I don't think there's anyone that's a better dynamic runner in the National Football League than Lamar Jackson. And I'm not just talking about the quarterback position. Like, I think when you combine the speed, the elusiveness, throwing a little spin moves in there too. Maybe only like Tyreek Hill is the only comparable player with him, but I don't even think he has the elusiveness Lamar has. When you put Lamar in open space, it's a problem. And immediately any team he's going to join, you know, it could be real dangerous when you put the right system in place, add in those read option plays, add in those quarterback design runs, and let him do what he does best. And it could be a whole different animal.
Despite the jerseys that we're wearing, obviously me and Rob were a little bit on different sides, but we wanted to come to agree A-Rod at 2, Lamar at 1. And one of the big reasons is legs. Situations in the NFL 100% matter, and that's why you see Aaron Rodgers kind of struggle at the beginning of this year and then kind of bring it back towards the end of the year. And the thing is, like, Lamar could thrive in more situations than Aaron Rodgers, point blank period. And it's simply because his legs. We've seen what he's done in Baltimore outside of having Hollywood Brown, who was often injured and dropped a lot of big time passes his final year in Baltimore. He hasn't really had a number 1 receiver. He hasn't had a receiver that you say, yo, go out there and run past everybody, or yo, maul somebody, or yo, make a big play, catch the ball and take that shit to the end zone.
Right, the kind of guy, fuck it, he's down there somewhere.
Exactly. He has Mark Andrews, but besides that, like, that offense is not impressive whatsoever, and Aaron Rodgers would be dog shit in that offense, if we're being completely honest. But like you said, Rob, you put Lamar Jackson on Houston, and you put Aaron Rodgers on Houston, who's going to make the team better? I think it's simply Lamar Jackson. And like you said, you know, you put both of them on the Jets, I think Aaron Rodgers could have a hell of a year, but who says that Lamar can't be just as good or not better, because we haven't seen him with a great receiving core whatsoever. So I think it's safe to say Lamar deserves to be number 1 on this list.
Exactly. And if we're talking a little prime destinations here, we've mentioned Vegas, we've mentioned the Jets, we've mentioned the Texans. What do you think about Lamar in Atlanta, Brandon?
Ooh, Rob, Lamar in ATL. Just imagine him in that black and red. You know, you think about all the days that Mike Vick was there, all the spectacular plays he's made, and you think about the plays Lamar has made in Baltimore. And just imagine Lamar doing it in the same jersey with the same logo as Mike Vick. They have good weapons, and that's a situation that's way better than the situation that Lamar's in now.
No doubt.
And just thinking about him in Atlanta, that has to bring a big smile and a lot of happiness to Atlanta, because you know they had to be bummed out when they missed out on Deshaun Watson last year, the hometown kid.
Exactly. And you talk about kind of that superstar with the swagger. We're seeing it on the basketball court there with Trae Young, his moxie, what he brings to the table. And Lamar's kind of that same type of guy. You've seen some of the tweets he puts out or some of his animations on the sidelines and with the fans. Like, he's a fun guy to root for, and Atlanta would just embrace the hell out of him, I think, especially knowing how they did with Michael Vick back in the day, and that would be a special place for him to go. But he is the #1 guy on our list because of what he can do no matter what the situation is. But all these guys could really change a team, so if you're a fan of a team who needs a quarterback, any of these guys could really take your team to the next level.
If you need a quarterback, close your eyes and pick one on this list. Your team would be in a better situation than it is now, and it damn sure be in a better situation with Ryan Tannehill or Sam Darnold or the crop of veterans out there.
Absolutely. So you can go and rank your top 5 as well. You can go to the site, prosportsoutlook.com. Check it out. Put them in whatever order you want to go. And, of course, this video is sponsored by Fan Gear Nation. You can get great jerseys at a great price. Look great while doing it. You can't beat it. And we'll see you next time.
Smash that like, hit that subscribe. We'll be back next week.